Audio testing, 1, 2, 3. Lights on, camera rolling, and action.
Welcome to the Scaling Creator Podcast, the one-stop shop that explores problems, solutions, and stories for business-minded creators. I'm Soren Dickens.
And I'm Erickson Dickens.
We'll be talking about everything from self-discovery, storytelling, leadership, marketing, sales, operations, and finance.
If you like a healthy dose of education mixed with a generous dash of insightful entertainment, prepare for your ears to be pleasured.
Oh, yeah. Make sure to check us out at scalingcreator.com and also join our free Discord community.
Scaling Creator launching in 3, 2, 1.
The following content is not intended for all listeners, but we strongly encourage all listeners to listen regardless. Welcome back to the Scaling Creator Podcast. I'm Soren Dickens, and today we are kicking off the Creator Series. The Creator Series is going to be a series of podcast episodes where we're having creators come on to talk about their sales, marketing, and operational initiatives within their own creative agency, their videography business, or any other creative service that they might be offering. Today, Robie is joining us. He's a videographer out of Utah that works on a variety of different types of video projects, including corporate videography, lifestyle videography, and wedding videography. So Ben, where are you calling from today?
I'm in my studio here in Draper, Utah. This is where I mean, you can kind of see some of my guitars back there. I play music too and edit in here. And this is like the time capsule where there's like no light, and I just disappear for hours and hours on end.
That's so sweet. So did you grow up in Draper? I love Utah in general, and Salt Lake area is amazing.
Yeah. No, I didn't grow up in Draper. I actually was born in Bakersfield, California, and I moved to Utah when I was 9. Kind of like the center of the valley, Sandy area, and then I moved to Draper and went to high school at Alta and all that good stuff. So Utah is totally home, but I still got all those California ties. I feel like I can't escape it. California just like lives in you. It's crazy.
Oh, absolutely. So you're from Bakersfield. I actually grew up in the Central Valley as well. So outside of Modesto, so just north of Bakersfield.
Yeah, Temecula, Modesto, all those little, sweltering, hot, dusty towns. Totally familiar.
So tell me a little bit about how you started making movies and getting into the content creation game. Obviously, you have a creative background with your music and what you're doing with your guitars. So tell us a little bit about how you got started and your journey from, I guess probably the budding creativity of youth, really, and how you came to be where you're at today.
I'll go all the way back. I mean, I had a best buddy in high school who was one of the most creative kids I've ever known. He was like one of my best friends, and he was Matt. And we spent a ton of time together, but I was always the jock kid. I was always playing football and baseball and basketball, and that was kind of my world in high school and stuff. But I enjoyed like hanging out with him and goofing around with a video camera and making funny movies and stuff like that. And that's where it kind of started, where I was like, this is possible and this is cool and fun. And then I actually work at my church. It's a non-denominational church here in Utah, and I was playing music there all the time. And we were shooting baptism videos, and I'm like, man, these videos blow. These are terrible. And I brought that up at a meeting. I'll never forget. I was at Chick-fil-A with our creative director, myself, and our lead pastor. I'm like, guys, these got to go better. And I was really critical, like hammering on Dan, the guy who was kind of doing them, and it was probably a little too much. And he's like, well, if you can do it better, man, why don't you just do it? And we had a little 5D, Canon 5D and like zero equipment, like maybe a light and stuff like that. I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a shot for sure. I'm editing Final Cut on his computer. No idea what I'm doing. Looking back, they're probably terrible, but I was like, man, I caught the bug. These are fun. So obviously started out, no cash involved, just trying to help out a little bit. But I just fell in love. It was super fun. And somebody said something along the line, and I've been doing this almost 10 years now, where they said the idea of being able to make something look better than it really does in reality is like pretty fun. It's like pretty attractive. Like to try to think that you can make something look better than what's real is pretty cool. So that's kind of how it all started. And then it grew from a side hustle to like kind of dominating my time to like now I'm trying to hire people out as freelancers with me. That's kind of how it all got going. And I guess I would say I was a second shooter at a wedding probably 8 years ago. And I thought, same kind of deal. I was like, I think I could do this better than this guy, man. Like he's making what I would think are mistakes or making weird choices in the edit and stuff. And he didn't use things I liked. I'm like, man, I just want some control of that. So that's kind of how it got going.
It sounds like you knew what you needed to change when you were seeing those things that you didn't really like align with. That's cool as a creator to have your own vision and stuff like that. Would you say that those were pivotal times they kind of like put you on the trajectory that you're on today? Or what are some of those moments that really influence your growth? I guess gave you the confidence. There's a lot of creatives out there who just don't have the confidence to step away, right?
It is totally about content or confidence. And now we're kind of dipping into some of the entrepreneurial like business world, because that really is the unknown. I think that is the hardest part for creatives is like, am I going to do something that is really dependent upon my taste? And what you're talking about a little bit is taste. Like, I think everybody kind of has an eye for what they like, whether they know it or acknowledge it or not. You're just kind of like thinking in the back of your mind, I like this, I don't like this, whatever, composition and framing, all that kind of stuff. So my jumping off point had a lot to do with having security in a different job. So I did the like blended thing, where you continue doing your full-time gig while you're trying to kind of make some money on the side. I don't even know if I recommend that. I love the idea of just jumping off and going into the deep end and saying, let's just risk it and try to get it, because there's a lot of resources out there. I was going to mention when I was thinking about doing this podcast, I was thinking about all my influences, the guys who helped me really take that step into trying to make this into some cash flow type of situation. And one of them I have to mention is Chris Do. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Chris Do. He's the future on Instagram, Futur, there's no E. Asian dude in Southern California, man, he is a stud, and he's a logo designer, but he puts out free content all the time that is unbelievably good, way more entrepreneurial focused than he is creatives focused. So I learned all about like price bracketing and marketing and what it meant to attract customers, the right customers, target audience, all this kind of stuff. I mean, we can go on and on and on about all the buzzwords, but those are real. You don't know about those until you know about them. And then Alex Hormozi, who doesn't like Alex Hormozi? And then freaking Gary Vee. Everybody loves Gary Vee. So those guys, I love listening to those guys. I might even love business more than I love filmmaking. Like at the end of the day, I just think that's awesome. I think that's part of the American dream. And if you got the bug, you should just go for it, because there's some, it's rarefied air. Not everybody can nail it and do it right the first time, but there's a lot of resources out there. And it's weird. Like people kind of want to help you when you're just risking it. It's attractive to people.
Absolutely. And to your point, talking about the business and like looking for influences that are outside of the creator space, tell me a little bit about the importance of separating your business and your creativity, because oftentimes creators do seem to get put into this hamster wheel of got to improve my creativity, got to improve the camera, got to improve this, got to improve that. But they kind of neglect the business skills. So how did you navigate that through your growth and building your business? Because having these conversations are really important, especially for our audience here, about the focus on business, and creativity is something that will come.
Creativity is just in you already. So the way I want to make sure I remember to say this, but I'll kind of dive deeper into what you said in a second. Whenever I didn't have a gig, or I had nothing on the calendar, I was like, I have a free Friday. How does this happen? There can be this looming terrible feeling like, why do I not have something on the calendar? I should be booked up. That's going to really put food on the table kind of stuff. But I saw those times, and still to this day, I'm like, I have a free half day, like 4-hour block. Let's work on the website, or let's get some better copy for something that a potential client's going to read, or let's just do some investigating on YouTube. Let's just watch YouTube videos for 4 hours. Let's just see what we can learn. And I've always been a really curious person. And I think being curious as a quality is like so valuable. Then there's always things that people can teach you. You're never not learning from somebody, even with business. So separating your creativity and your business mindset, I guess, I don't know if that's fully real, because you need to use your creativity to create good business strategy, good business plans, all that kind of stuff. And as you're being curious and as you're being creative, you're also kind of investing in your business. You're investing in the vehicle that's really driving you towards success, which is yourself. So that's a good question. I mean, as far as entrepreneur stuff goes, as far as business stuff goes, I've always seen it as like all one and the same. The new gear journey, oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. That is the most real problem there is, man. That is a problem. I mean, I see stacks and stacks of stuff behind you. You've obviously dumped some cash into that kind of stuff, but that can be a pit for sure. Huge pit.
Absolutely. What's your philosophy there in terms of where do you draw the line for different projects and when to get the new gear? I want to hear from you as a creative, what drives those decisions, and when is the time to get the camera or upgrade the computer? How does that work for you?
I really like to buy new gear when I've booked something that is kind of out of my wheelhouse, or I'm like, for example, like if I'm shooting, I don't know, in the winter time, like in something freezing cold, it's like, hey, let's pick this up. Let's say I'm going to make $1,000 today on this thing, or today, whatever, $1,000 on this gig. Let's buy this thing for $200. That's like a camera, like a rechargeable battery or something like that. Something that's going to last me all day. And then it's like my policy is, if it's bad policy on a return policy, then you just return it. If you don't like it. Like, hey, Amazon is Amazon. We can all use that to our advantage. So I don't like to buy gear until I know there's money coming in. I'm not going to put myself into the red buying something, because there's always skills to learn with the gear you have. There's always something new to try. The most important thing is going to be your brain and your hands working the machine. That is always going to be the thing that's going to propel you forward. So like, I don't have amazing gear. This is on a GH5S that I've had for 5 years or something like that, 4 years. And then my primary camera is an FX3. It's a great camera. It's not the top of the line kind of thing. I've tried out the FX6 and the FX9 and all that awesome gear. I've shot on Alexas before and all that stuff. But those are just tools in the hands, you know what I mean? So if one of my favorite statements is the sharp knives don't make the food taste good. Just because you have sharp knives doesn't make the food tastes good. Just because a painter has a nice paintbrush doesn't make the painting beautiful. It's all about that person. So again, like investing in yourself, if I can give advice, unsolicited advice, try to invest in your skills and practice. Just go nuts. Just like wear something into the ground. You know Casey Neistat?
Yeah.
Casey Neistat's got all the cash you could ever want. I think he still shoots on a 5D Mark III, like an old Canon camera that he scratches the logos off because he's like a weird logo nut. But I just love that stuff. I think that's great.
Oh yeah, I love that too. I feel like there's a time and a place when you need the gear, you have the people who need the gear, it's worth it. But in terms of investing in your business, investing in marketing and I guess your team is where I feel like the best investment is. And like, how do we get more clients and how do I book more gigs? And then I can focus on, I guess, adding more people who then need more gear and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I was going to say, this is a weird thing to say, invest in your ability to be rejected. If you can get rejected, make yourself rejectable, then you can step into any room and ask any question to any millionaire out there who needs work done. Like, it's okay to say, hey, would it make sense if we were going to work together? Does something like that sound good to you? Whereas if you're not rejectable, that question can never come out of your mouth. It's way too scary. Does that make sense?
Totally. Well, so during your journey, when did you get to the point where you felt comfortable, you know, taking the projects that you wanted to take? How did you develop that thick skin to say no?
Getting rejected a bunch of times. You know, you get rejected plenty of times. My worst nightmare is when I send something to somebody that's like my precious little baby creation and I'm handing it over to the client and they're like, this is so good, but can you change this, and this? I'm like, okay, you really don't like it. Like at the end of the day, you actually don't like what I slaved to create. That is a different kind of rejection. That probably hurts more to me. Like that still hurts to this day. But developing the thick skin, I ask my wife this question all the time. I'm like, what is the worst answer you can get? The worst answer you can get is no. That's not that bad of an answer. You know what I mean? Hell no. I don't know what's worse than no. You know, it doesn't get that bad at the end of the day. So I just think living in reality, not getting overwhelmed by the idea of what could be so terrible. Like what is in reality is just a no. That's not that bad. The idea of what's going to happen when they say no, it seems way worse than it really is going to be.
Along with that, then, what is your like mode of acquisition for clients? So you were talking about getting no's. I checked some of my, outbound today, and I can't tell you how many people are like, stop emailing me, no, all of those things that now we just laugh at when we see that type of stuff, because you have to get no's to find the yes, right? So what's your mode of acquisition in terms of how do you get business for yourself? And what are you doing to find success in your business?
People are not going to like me on this because, and you might even not like me. I haven't spent a dime on advertising or running Google ads or Instagram or Facebook ads, nothing like that. I really never have. And part of that is just timing and luck. Like, let's be honest, I've had some great conversations with great people along the way to where I've parlayed one job into the next enough times now. And again, 10 years in the business will create a Rolodex to where maybe they don't call you for 6 months, but then you're just working away and 6 months later, somebody's like, hey, we did that video, we want to do it again or do something different or whatever, they pick up the phone. So I genuinely only have inbound kind of like jobs coming to me, which is, I'm so grateful for. Like someday that will dry up. I totally understand that. Probably at the point where it's like, let's start thinking about scaling and thinking about ads and stuff like that. I just had a great conversation with a guy the other day who runs an ad agency, and he's like, you need to think about it before it's too late. I'm like, that's a great point. I really do need to think about it before it's too late, before those inbound things stop coming in. I've always kind of looked at it as a 3-month chunk. Like if I'm 3 months out in terms of getting things on the calendar and kind of booking things up, I think that looks good to a client or a potential client. If you're like, hey, I'd love to get you on the schedule. I really don't have anything for like 2-3 months, until I'm really available for that travel trip or something like that. And I got a family too. Like I can't be going all over the place all the time. So I got to be smart about that. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. You probably have better tips than I do in terms of what it looks like to go outbound. I've tried the LinkedIn. I've probably sent 4 or 5 LinkedIn messages where it's like, hey, what would it look like for us to work together? I think one got back to me. Like that is just a grind. That's hard for me. I'd rather just hit up the people I've already. Oh, you just reminded me. Chris Doe had a lady on who was talking about what it's like to email your old clients, what that email should probably look like. And she gave great advice, and I'll give it away right here. She said, it's okay to say, should we work together again? What would that look like? I love the way that question's phrased, by the way. I know I've said that a few times. Does it make sense for us to work together? What does that look like? But she said, and maybe you know somebody that would also benefit mutually from a relationship or a connection. Would you mind putting us in touch? I'm like, man, that's a great way to ask that question. It's rejectable. Hey, I can be rejected no matter what, no pressure. I'm just trying to see if I can help someone else out in this process. I've helped you out, like to help somebody else out. What do you think? Man, what a great way to go about that kind of connection. Just adding value.
I love that. I think that's a great way to dip back into that Rolodex, and they're your clients already, so they know what it's like working with you. They'll go to bat with you, maybe even open up the referral, have the conversation on your behalf. That's a great way. I think that's amazing. And it's a testament to your work too, that you haven't had to go out and do a bunch of outbound, and the relationships that you're building are solid. And that's huge for a creator. Creators that are listening need to really take note there, because oftentimes a creator finishes the work and they like to just sit down and they almost neglect the relationship sometimes, where it's better to lean into that and check in with them and see who else they might know that needs your service, because oftentimes they will have a connection for you. So
I think that's kind of in the back pocket. I don't want to like use that up. That's like a draw 4 Uno card. Like you only play that card when it's like time, when you're kind of like ready to send out 10 of these boys and just see if one bites. I don't want to be doing that every year. I don't want to be doing that every 6 months. Anyway, I just don't want some young creator out there to be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to email all my clients all the time. You're going to look desperate. That's not the goal. You don't want to look desperate. You know what I mean? Even if you are desperate, you don't want to come off that way.
It's important to lead with value. Give them something, repurpose some of that content. There's so many ways once you start navigating that relationship. What are some of the projects that you enjoy working on the most? Where do you find the most fulfillment? Where do you feel like, 2 sides of this question, where do you find the most fulfillment as a creator? And then where do you find the most success as a business owner in terms of projects?
As far as fulfillment goes, man, I always love when the story is like kind of told for you. Like it's just, you are just there to do a good job of capturing and then kind of like piecing together the story so that our TikTok attention spans can hang on for the ride. You know what I mean? It's like you don't have to constantly do an event coverage. Like event coverage is kind of like the thing that There's always going to be events. There's always going to be little small businesses. You really could just knock on the door of 10 businesses and find somebody who's trying to just like cover an event for $300. Like that is out there. Tough way to make a living. You know what I mean? But that's possible. But in terms of fulfillment, I mean, this is going to sound weird. I shot this video for a dentist probably 2 months ago, and it was a guy getting a high bridge, like complete replacement of all his teeth, right? So he had terrible dental problems. He was only eating liquid food. I mean, it was bad. And the dentist was doing it for free. It was kind of a promotional thing. So this guy was like blown away, stoked to be there. He's crying during the interview. He's like, I can't believe they just picked me. All I did was send him an email, kind of thing. So I'm just there like nodding as he's interviewing, like, this is amazing. This is gold. I just already know this is beautiful stuff to catch on camera. Raw emotion is just beautiful. We got to shoot that, and then 3 months later, he did a post-op kind of check-in. Here's your actual like custom teeth. He looks in the mirror and he just bawls, and he's like incredibly thankful. He's lost weight because he's eating properly. Like everything, it just looks completely different. That was just so fulfilling for me. It's just like, first of all, it's 3 months. It's a long span of like shoot 1, shoot 2, totally spread out. So it's a long project. I'm not getting paid until 4 months later. That's like a long thing. But holy cow, I will never forget that shoot. It was just so cool to see. And then on the business end, is in terms of making more sense for you, cash flow wise and business wise, anything that pays huge, I'm like juiced for. Like my heart is racing, and that's fun now. And that number has changed over the years. I used to get so pumped for $500. I was like, $500 for 1 day of shooting? That is awesome. I love shooting. So now I get to do that for $500. That's awesome. That number's changed over the years, but that's why I say, like, this really is a business for me. This really does get me excited when I know I'm getting to do things with that cash, invest in the business, maybe gear, maybe not, or just simply security. Like, let's be real. It's nice to have security to where you're truly not desperate. You're truly not begging for that next client. You can just kind of go about your way and let them come to you. So, I mean, in terms of huge cash, usually a travel date, and it's not going to be the most fun type of things. Like I've covered huge events for large companies. I'm not going to name a bunch of them right now. That's the kind of stuff I don't even post on my Instagram. Like, it's just not even that cool to see. So some of the stuff is not flashy, the stuff that pays good money. Or you're doing corporate interviews where guys are on a teleprompter and it's as boring as it gets. You're sitting there for 8 hours. Everything's plugged into the wall. You're not even using batteries anymore because it just takes so freaking long. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff is boring, but it will pay the bills.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that, because oftentimes when creators do want to step into business, they think that the flashier, the flashier the client is, the more it's going to pay. Or even if the budget is like huge, for example, oftentimes that budget could get eaten up with crew and other resources process. So I like that you say that about the boring corporate stuff that does pay, because as a creator, we want to find the projects that we find fulfillment in, but sometimes we end up taking projects where we don't find fulfillment because we need to make ends meet. So you got to find that happy balance between the boring stuff and the stuff that you love. That's a great way to put it.
No, I've struck the balance 100%. I mean, last fall, I drove up to this ranch here in Utah. It's above Park City. It's called 9999, or maybe it's 49's Ranch. I don't know. My buddy Matt Underwood, who's a director in New York, it's like a friend of a friend of a friend. We kind of connected. He's like, I'm going to be out there. Do you want to just like be on set? Do you want to help me out? There's a crew of 45 people. It's a huge crew for a commercial for Chevy. And I'm like, dude, I'll do anything to be on set. Like, I don't have to touch camera. Like, I just want to be there. He's like, good, because we have no budget. I'm like, oh, for real? You're being serious? Like, you're taking me up on my offer to just be on set for nothing. And I went up there for 2 days and just kind of poked around and watched, and it's way more gear than I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, this is a 1-minute Chevy commercial, and this is a huge production. 2 day, tons of crew up there. I mean, I guess it was 4-day prep day and then a teardown day at the end, but everybody left. And he won awards for the commercial. It was the coolest thing I've been a part of. My name's on there for some ridiculous reason, for standing around and like getting coffee and stuff. But that's like a passion thing where I was just like, I want to see what something like this with this kind of scope is like. You know what I mean? I just have my camera and my gear that, whatever, that I get to shoot with. I want to see what it's like for some of the big boys. I think it's cool to be willing to take some of those type of deals too.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, there's never enough exposure, right? So what are you looking forward to the rest of the year here? What do we got to look forward to? It could be personal, anything. Just as a creator, going into the end of the year, and how are you going to make that happen?
That's a great question. I mean, I'm going to Hawaii in September with my family. Can't wait for that. I'm going to Tahoe in August. Can't wait for that. I got some awesome trips coming up. In terms of business, in terms of shooting, me and my wife get to... Are you married, by the way?
I'm not, no.
Well, when you're married, man, it's sweet to work into that deal. Can I get a hotel room for 2? Can I get a meal for 2? Can I get my second shooter? Bring them along. So I'm going to shoot a pretty high profile wedding in Montana next week, I think. July 6th or something, which is going to be awesome. It's at the same lodge that Yellowstone was shot at. Such a sick opportunity. Yellowstone's like one of my favorite cinematic things to watch of all time. So that'll be I'm pretty stoked on that. And that kind of locks up my July too, because I have so many trips on the calendar and stuff like that. So that one thing is going to be able to cover me for a little bit. But that's the stuff I'm stoked about.
Glad to hear it. Enjoy your travels too. Though I'm assuming that Hawaii, it's all leisure, just chilling.
That is all leisure. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to reach out to some connections out there and try to make it a business trip. My wife might kill me if I try to do that, but sometimes that's reality too. It's how do I get this on the business credit card? That's a whole nother podcast, man. Taxes and navigating. That's a learning curve.
Sounds like you have a ton of knowledge to unpack, and I'd love to run it back with you on another more in-depth, topic-specific podcast. And I think our audience would like that. I will absolutely make that happen. Where can people find you? I know you got your socials, your website. Tell us where people can find you. If it's personal, business, just tell us where people can find you so they can check you out and connect.
My Instagram, Honey Videography, is a great place. I'm a consumer on Instagram. I just watch other people. I barely post stuff, but I'm on there. I promise. I'll respond to messages. That's how we connected. Happy to talk to whoever. Happy to answer questions. I know what it's like to start out. I know what it's like to have a ton of questions and not know where to get answers. So I'm looking at my DMs on my screen right here, and it's full of people just asking me questions. What'd you shoot with, or where were you that day? So yeah, Honey Videography. It's the hardest thing to spell ever. It's a dumb name. But Honey Videography is my Insta, and then honeyvideography.com is my site that I use. Those are great.
Awesome. Well, check them out. Thanks for coming on the Scaling Creator podcast. We enjoyed it. This is the Creator Series. Short episodes with creators talking about their journeys and highlighting some of the things, like in your case, your business acumen is far beyond what most creators have. So it's really exciting. And I look forward to diving into another podcast where we can talk about more of the business side. Like you said, entity structures, taxes, all of those things. And I think our audience will eat that up. So thank you so much.
Heck yeah, brother. My pleasure. Anytime. Let me know.